When it comes to grade expectations, there are several things you'll need to be aware of as a student within the Department of Agricultural Economics. Students will have several different GPA categories that they will need to stay in good academic standing with in order to continue in this department and in their program. If you are an agricultural economics major, you will have 3 different GPA categories that you will need to keep in good academic standing with. If you are an agribusiness student, you will have 4 different GPA categories that you would need to keep good academic standing in. Good academic standing is considered as a 2.0 GPA or higher at Texas A&M University. Obviously, we prefer that you have a much higher GPA than a 2.0. However, this is the minimum threshold that we will accept for students to avoid issues of probation, dismissal, that sort of thing. So you need to have at least a 2.0 in each of these different categories to be considered a student in good academic standing. When we're looking at the different GPA categories, there's a couple of different things to know. Your overall GPA is going to be one of the categories that is required for both AGEC and agribusiness students. Your overall GPA will be all of the classes that you've taken at Texas A&M University or at certain Texas A&M institutions like Texas A&M Galveston. Your term GPA will be calculated for a single semester, so it's going to be classes from fall of 2021 or spring of 2022. It would be your GPA average for what you got in a single semester. Your major coursework will be different based on what you're majoring in. So if you are an agricultural economics student, your major coursework GPA category is calculated based on all the AGEC or AGEC courses that you've taken. Those would fall into the major coursework category. If you are an agribusiness student, your major GPA is calculated based on certain specific courses that are identified as major classes. So you would need to look at your degree sheet to see the designator to find out whether this is a major class or if it falls under one of the other GPA categories. And if you're an agribusiness student, the CBK or core business knowledge GPA is going to be calculated based on your average for your core business knowledge courses. So again, this 4th GPA is only if you are an agribusiness student. One of the things that you really need to know about when you're thinking about these GPA categories is what classes are falling into which categories. So, for example, we've got a sample schedule here. Some students have taken this particular schedule and they've received different grades ranging from A to F in these particular courses for this semester. And so A&M grades courses according to a 4.0 scale. So if we're looking at this column here, basically an A is worth 4 points, a B is worth 3 points, a C is worth 2, D 1, and so on. Now, each of these classes on the list is a 3 credit hour class. That represents the middle column right here. So if a student gets an A in History 105, they would multiply the 4 points from the A by the 3 hours that you took for the class. So it ends up with 12 grade points for History 105. For AGEC 105, this student got a B, and so that's worth 3 points. We multiply it by the 3 hours that you get for that class in terms of the credit, so you would end up with 9 grade points for that category. And you can kind of do the same calculations going further on. So the way to calculate your GPA for this semester would be to add up all of these grade points from the columns, the far column on the right, and then divide it by the number of hours for the semester. And you can see that the student would have 30 grade points divided by 15 hours, so that would equal a 2.0. Now, a student might look at this schedule and say, okay, great, you said I needed a 2.0 to stay in good academic standing. It's not great in terms of what I have to tell my parents later on, but this is not going to be a problem. I'm still going to be in good academic standing. And that's not actually the case, because if we look at this category, different classes fall into different GPA categories. So if you're an AGEC major, you would be fine. But as an agribusiness student, the Econ 202 course that this student got an F in, this class actually falls under the CBK GPA. So their major coursework GPA would be okay because they had a B in AGEC 105. Their overall was at least a 2.0. They got a 2.0 for the term, but with this particular option here that we're showing, the Econ 202, they only have a 0 grade point for that one, and so their CBK GPA is now at a 0, which means they would not be in good academic standing and would be dealing with issues of dismissal and probation. So again, make sure you know what classes are going into which categories. When it comes to rules and regulations, we've talked about this a little bit, but the minimum GPA that you need for each category is a 2.0 for each of the GPA categories. That is the lowest we will accept for that coursework. You also need to make sure that you know, again, which classes are counting where. Sometimes students will ask, okay, what grade do I need to pass my class? But even if a grade of D is considered the minimum passing grade in each course, if you get a D in every single class, that's not going to allow you to maintain that minimum GPA average of a 2.0. So the answer to the question is usually, it depends. How is this grade of D going to impact the rest of your schedule? So make sure that you visit with your academic advisor early if you think that you're going to get a lower grade in a class. There are a couple of exceptions to the minimum grade of D being considered passing, and that is Econ 202. Students have to have a grade of C or higher for Econ 202. And if you're pursuing a minor or a certificate or something like that, students would also need to make a C or above in order to meet the requirements for that particular program.